Tonight by Tim Reid, and I'm not trying to portray you as a bitter man because there's already another CBS show in the works, and you've had a lot of success no matter how the future unfolds for you, a lot of success in television. But it is a real kick in the pants that Frank's Place isn't on the air anymore.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. It was something that I truly loved doing, and it was very important to me and to my family, and when it was snatched out of the existing realm of television, it hurt deeply.
To say that the critics liked the show is really to understate it. This was one of the most warmly received shows by critics in recent history.
Yeah, it was. Which almost turned out to work against us, because it was almost as if people in the industry who were, of course, not critically involved wanted to prove the critics wrong. So every time we got a low rating, they would say, well, you see there, the critics, they don't know what they're talking about. And then, of course, later on, the critics began to, I guess, figure maybe they had made a mistake. So it sort of worked against us. And whoever came up with the name Dramedies, I'd like to take them out in the alley and go pop them.
Dramedies.
Dramedies.
Which is loosely a show that has a dramatic form, but some humorous content, but the key is without an audience, without a laugh track.
Yeah. Used to be called entertainment, but now it became Dramedies.
Did the research show, and there's research on everything in television, did the research show that while critics might like it, that the average guy out there in television land doesn't know what to make of a dramedy? He doesn't know if it's fish or fowl. He doesn't know if he should laugh if an audience doesn't tell him to laugh? I
didn't quite get all of the background information that we would need to make a good understanding of what it meant. But they seemed to be confused as to what our intent was in the show. We didn't have a specific focus. One week we were light and up, and the next week we were very poignant, or we were doing something about drugs, or we were doing something farcical about a dead body disappearing in a freezer. So I think it did confuse the viewer. However, I felt that there was a hardcore audience who did just about everything to find us. I mean, our show was moved about, I think, 6 times in the 22 episodes that aired.
And that had to be the biggest single problem. It was on Tuesday, then it was on Saturday.
Well, look at Moonlighting. Look at all the shows that have those scheduling problems that are either moved around or do a lot of repeats. The viewer gets a little dissatisfied in trying to find it. I mean, this is true. One particular week, I didn't know what night it was going to be on, and I'm the exec producer and star of the show. I didn't know what night it was going to be on. And the TV guide was wrong and all that. So it was frustrating. I think if you move Cosby 6 times within one season, you begin to have a tremendous drop-off of viewership.
Kim LeMasters, who's the head of entertainment programming at CBS, said something to this effect. He said, this show is everything television should be.
Kim was a staunch supporter of the show. And matter of fact, it was Kim and a gentleman by the name of Greg Mayday who gave Hugh and I the first initial concept about Frank's Place.
Hugh Wilson.
Hugh Wilson, that's my co-executive producer and creator of the show. He and I went in and said we wanted to work together. And Hugh had a commitment and I had a commitment, and we had the same agency, William Morris, and they love packaging. When you package something, they're very happy. So they packaged us at the network, and Kim said, you know, why don't you guys do something about a restaurant? And let's say New Orleans. And he went on, and when he finished pitching his story, I just looked at Hugh, and he looked at me, and we knew then we wanted to do that show.
What happened to you up there in Boston?
Well, somebody stole my car. I couldn't get any phones to work. A girlfriend left me. My office burned down.
In a week?
2 weeks. You're surprised?
Yes, son, drink up your wine.
Well, I'd like to propose a toast. To Chez Louisiane.
Chez Louisiane, Frank. And everybody just calls it the Chez.
To the Chez.
To Frank's Place.
We sent them the pilot. They came back. I think Kim said, I love this show. It's not what I expected, but I love this show. And he fought for the show, but the promotional department really didn't know how to promote it. I think one week they were promoting our show as the most hilarious new show in television, and that was the week we had a show about a suicide. A man went off the bridge. So something was wrong.
Always a side-splitting topic.
Yeah, whoa. And that was a show also that won an Emmy for Hugh Wilson in the writing and the Humanitas Award. So it was a bit confusing.
The path to where you're at right now has been an interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
You could have wound up like a lot of your buddies, which is either nowhere or dead.
Yeah, the community in which I grew up in was nothing like today. God, I'm amazed that young people are able to survive today as much as they are. But when I grew up, it was the beginning of some of the things we're now seeing. And a few of my friends, when I lived with my grandmother in the urban center before I moved to the country with my father, I was leading the wrong path and got involved with some youth gangs, as they were called then, and almost out of survival, because if you're in a neighborhood like that and you're not, you become a prey, you know, a victim. People are using you as punching bags. So I would run with them a few times, and on one particular time I ran with them, I think the last time, when I realized this is it. I went to them, and they decided one night they were going to do some gang banging, and we went to this place, and by the way, I was not a bad kid. I mean, when I say bad, I wasn't a great fighter. I was probably the fastest one on there, and I used a lot of humor to keep them from killing me, but you have to put on this image. You have to act mean, even if inside you're scared to death. And I went there, and we got into a little altercation with some people, and we were put out, and as we were going out, a guy came from behind the counter with a German Luger, and I happened to be the last guy to leave the door, and he stuck it to my head, and he just said, "Run." And I remember my father owned a nightclub for a brief time, and he had mentioned to me that according to the law in Virginia, if you killed anyone who was robbing you or whatever, make sure they fall inside your place of establishment. They fall outside the door jamb, then you're definitely guilty, or you have a tough time, as long as they fall inside. So I kept thinking, whatever I do, cross this door seal, get outside, because if he shoots me and I fall in here, this guy's going to get off. That's all I could think about, was to get outside. Maybe he would think about it twice. And I just kept walking. As I broke the door seal plane, I could feel the gun ease away, and I knew he had a train on me. And I just turned the corner, I walked, and after I got out of maybe about 20 feet.
You didn't run?
No, I didn't run. I knew not to run, because I just said, if I can be calm and don't run, don't get excited. And as I walked about 20 feet, then I realized, now is the time to run. I would have run over Carl Lewis if he'd gotten my way. And I got home, and I really broke down when I got home, and I said, that's it. And I kind of walked away from those guys. And many of them are dead or in prison. There are about, let's see, we're about 10 or 12 of us, and out of that group, I think maybe 4 of us are alive today.
Doesn't take much to make me happy, and make me smile. Never will I feel discouraged, 'cause our love's no mystery. Demonstrating love and affection that you give so freely. I like the way you make me feel about you, baby. Oh, my world is free. Whoa, whoa. You got the best of my love. Whoa, whoa. You got the best of my love. Whoa, whoa. You got the best of my love. Whoa, whoa. You got the best of my love.
Stay tuned. Later with Bob Costas. We'll be right back.
Well, you're probably looking for the dance studio upstairs.
No, I need to see my man.
Which man is yours?
The dude's name is Travis.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm afraid the dude is in conference right now.
I'm cool.
I'm sure you are.
I'm the new nighttime DJ.
Oh, dear.
I beg your pardon? I mean, say what?
Eventually you wind up, remember the JCs, a young executive at
Yes.
DuPont.
Young executroid on the move. Yeah, I was very fortunate. God has blessed me so much. And mainly by putting people in my life who cared enough to point me in the right direction, or be hard on me when it came time, or to be soft when it came time. And someone took an interest in me in college, a gentleman by the name of Stanley, the late Stanley Wilson, who got me involved in drama, gave me a little direction. And my marketing instructor at that time, the late Dr. Gadsden at Norfolk State University, took an interest in me. I was married at the time, I had a child, and it was getting to the point where I could not stay in school full time and support my family. So he made it possible for me to get a job on campus and help me. And I got an interview with DuPont. I was the first black interviewed from a black college in America, and I became also their first black employee in a management position training program. Out of 150,000, I was the first, and I graduated. I had that job offered me my junior year, by the way. So I knew where I was going as senior. All I had to do was try to get out. So when I graduated, I went to work for DuPont, and they shipped me to Chicago, where I became a marketing rep and covered portions of 3 states for them, selling industrial and graphic arts equipment. And I met Tom Dreesen, who was an insurance man.
Comedian.
That's why I met him in the JCs. People say, how do you get in show business? Join the JCs. Yeah. And that's how I met him. And we, at that time, was 69, and the drug problem was definitely not front page news. In those days, it was saying it's something that happens across the track. And it began to become front page news in a couple of tragic situations with children of stars. I think Art Linkletter's daughter had a tragic death. And it became front page news, and Tom and I decided with the JCs to do something in our community locally. And we went to elementary schools, he and I and a police officer named Paul Hollingsworth. And we went in and talked to kids about problems and drugs, just elementary school kids. And kids used to say, you guys are funny, you ought to become a comedy team. And about 6 months into it, we decided to go into show business. Knew nothing about it. Insurance man and a marketing rep.
And you're still holding the other jobs at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we moonlighted for about 2 years, until finally one day we snuck off and went to New York to audition for the Carson show. And we bombed horribly, but we got David Frost's show. And I knew then I had to leave the company because it's funny, you're marketing man, and suddenly your boss sees you on the David Frost show saying a young new comedy team. So I quit and went full-time in the show business.
But when you first went on the Frost show, you still held the job, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're probably on there going, if this guy's staying up late, he's going to see me. What's going to happen?
I'm in deep trouble. So I came back and I resigned from the company and went full-time in the show business and starved to death for about 6 years.
How long after that? Was it about 6 years before you landed on WKRP?
No, actually it was about, 6 years before I got WKRP. But I did commercials and modeling. I did those high-fashion models for black attire, you know, the platform shoes with a little fish in the bottom and all that. You know, I was anything that you could do to work. And I did commercials and everything, and finally got over.
You know, Frenchie Fuqua, the running back for the Steelers, actually used to go around wearing those platform shoes with the water and the goldfish in either heel.
I've seen them.
Which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, you need a medical card, though, to wear those things. You fall off from, you're in deep trouble.
So it's easy to see where the inspiration for Venus Flytrap came from.
Yeah. Well, actually, Venus was by the time I got Venus, Venus came about again in another of those blessings. I had just been fired from a show because I wasn't black enough. We had gone 7 days of rehearsal for this part. It was a show called Looking Good. I think it was the ABC network or something. And it was to star Shirley Ralph, who's gone on to bigger and wonderful things, another young lady, and myself. And I was to own a beauty shop that was on the adjacent of Beverly Hills where rodeo becomes rodeo. And, and there was my little shop, and they worked in it. And I was supposed to be sort of continental. 50% of my sort of character was going to be continental. Hello, so good to see you again. This is so-and-so for my white customers, and I was supposed to be real get down and funky for the black customers. And I thought 50-50, okay, I'll play this. This may be something of a character that I can get into. Well, as rehearsal went on and on and on, it was down to 99% Yo Mama and 1% because I was holding the one line that I wanted with the continental accent. And the guy fired me because we got into an argument about that. And they fired me. I got fired on a Thursday. I was so happy to be fired because they were going to pay me because they fired me. And then that Friday, after it was over, I felt, this is the first time in my life I've ever been told I couldn't cut it, that I couldn't come up to whatever people expected of me. And it really hurt. And that following Monday, I got a call to come over and audition for a show called the WKRP in Cincinnati. And I went over that Monday audition and got the part. Had I not been fired, I know it would become Venus Flytrap. And that changed, of course, my life again.
An interesting thing in looking over the research that I didn't realize before this, a very successful series, obviously, still on in reruns in most parts of the country.
All over the world.
And you and Lonnie Anderson and Howard Hessman and the others. And yet, MTM, which produced the show, apparently wasn't so proud of it.
Proud is not the word. They hated the show. I think what happened was...
Not classy enough compared to their other vehicles?
They didn't... I don't think they really quite understood the show or cared to. And at that time, it was the first videotape show that MTM attempted to do. They had always been a film company. And they felt with the economic situation the way it was becoming in Hollywood that they'd better try that. So they gave Hugh Wilson, this young genius from the South, an opportunity to develop this little show. And they kind of stuck us along. We weren't even on the same lot with the MTM family. were off on another little lot, and they didn't really give us much of a chance. And the show caught on after the first year, and suddenly they brought us into their family because, well, now this show may be a hit. And it was too late. We had been alienated to the point where we had, this is the way this show is going to run. Hugh was going to be in control of this show, and we all rallied behind him. And there were constant fights over salary. We were the lowest paid ensemble cast in television. And there were constant fights, and I think we took that as there was a little resentment because we knew that there were other people. On one show, there were like 3 people whose combined salaries were more than all 8 of us were getting. So that resentment stayed there, and I think till this day, I think when you see something about MTM's heyday, they never mention KRP in Cincinnati. Yet, it is probably the highest or the second highest revenue maker for that company in syndications around the world. I've seen that show in Singapore, in Italy, in England. I've seen it in Japan. It's running like twice a day in Canada. I get mail from Africa, from Scotland.
15 or 20 years from now, if people look at it, a specifically 70s show, there's only about a 4 or 5 year window in time where those characters, the way they dressed, the way they acted, the attitude, could possibly fit.
Right, yeah. Well, even the show broke a little ground, not a little ground, broke a lot of ground. And one in terms of, again, stereotypes. Here was a black character that his entrance was with an earring, an ermine coat, and a hat. And right away, everybody thought this was going to be another stereotypical black character, when in fact, the aim that Hugh had and the vision that he had, and also what I dreamed of having with this character, was to show this as sort of his entertainment facade. But behind this was a man who was not only interested in his work, but interested in his co-workers and cared about life. And I think that's what the character really grew to become, and I think that's the thing that I enjoy most about it. We were the first show in television to do, before Lou Grant before him, a show about Vietnam, and a show Who's Gordon Sims, where my character was, his past came back to haunt him. We found out he deserted Vietnam. Actually, he didn't desert Vietnam. He had finished his tour of duty, but when they sent him back stateside, he didn't go to he didn't report to his center to be released. He just left. And we got into some heavy stuff, and it was really quite interesting. We did a show about the Who concert, the tragedy that took place in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati, yeah.
And all those things sort of angered the network, and of course angered MTM, because we were constantly getting into deep water with these subjects. We did a show about the moral majority that really, I think, was beginning the nails going in the coffin. And it wasn't an attempt to put anyone down. It was an attempt to try to open up and use television for what I think it can be, a wonderful tool to reveal another side and yet still be entertaining. I think that we shouldn't be a topical-oriented entertainment thing in prime time. I think we must entertain, but I think in that there are opportunities to show people in a different light, to show subjects in a truer, more balanced form, and that's really what I enjoy doing.
We'll continue with Tim Reid right after this.
Not another party. I'm not going. I can't take any more of those baby vegetables. I'm serious. This time I'm putting my foot down.
Who's the diplomat we have to pick up tonight?
Cesare Ciatti. He's Italy's new deputy cultural minister. What he really is a playboy with more notches on his bedpost than Casanova.
Real lady killer, huh?
Notorious. You guys have it so easy. You put on a tux and a bow tie and you're dressed. There's nothing in this closet for me to wear.
Nothing to wear? Then how come the closet needs structural reinforcement?
Back now with Tim Reid. You love to work with your wife,
Yes.
Daphne Maxwell, and since she's talented, it works out.
It certainly does. Of course, we love each other, and the marriage has been very interesting and fiery and dynamic and all for both of us. But we're also partners. I enjoy her company, and she's a good friend. So working with my wife is a joy.
So she was in Frank's Place, and of course at
Frank.
first on Simon & Simon, which is where you went after WKRP. You're
Also in KRP. I wrote a couple scripts for her.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, she worked in
But
KRP. too.
you were Downtown Brown, who was a terrific character, and then she shows up with a great name, Temple Hill.
Yes.
TV
Bill
reporter,
Dial,
Temple Hill.
A friend of mine, former Frank's Place producer, came up with Temple Hill. Yeah, she's a wonderful actress, and she's growing tremendously. We just did a show, another pilot. I've done so many pilots now I think I qualify to fly a plane. But we just finished another pilot that will be on or not, who knows. But she's really the lead in this. And it's the first time I think a black woman has had a lead in a one-hour drama since Get Christy Love back in the early 60s.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah.
Early 60s?
Mid-60s. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, late 60s.
Yeah, late 60s had to be, because Julia,
late 60s.
when Diane Carroll was Julia, that was the first time any black woman had been a lead in anything.
Yeah. But since Get Christy Love in late 60, there hasn't been a black woman in lead in a one-hour dramatic show. And Daphne is really the lead in the show. And it's a wonderful show. It's based primarily in Washington. She works for the State Department in protocol, and I'm a professor of psychology at Georgetown. And she snoops around and gets me into trouble. And it's a lighthearted. It's Mr. and Mrs. North. It's a thin man. Really is what it is.
It's called Snoops.
Called Snoops.
And it's on CBS.
Yeah, hopefully.
So
it will or it will not. Or you'll see it in the summer as one of those discarded pilots that they run at certain times.
So apparently, even though they might have done Frank's Place wrong, they still believe in you and they still believe in Daphne, and they'd like to find a vehicle for you.
I think so. I mean, I've known a lot of people over at CBS now for 10 years. I've been working with them consistently, and they're nice people. And Frank's Place was a tragedy, I think, that even they have to admit should not have happened the way it did. So, I mean, it's business. It really is business. I used to take it personally, but I finally learned at this age of my life that it's business, and you have to go in and you have to play on the battlefield. I think it was Malcolm X who said, if you're a good football player and the game is basketball, you better know how to dribble. So when they change the rules, I try to shift focus and learn how to play that game.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for Snoops on CBS.
Let's hope so.
With Tim Reid.
I need the money.
Yeah, sure you do. I think a lot of people really need to see you and Daphne Maxwell Reid back on the tube on a regular basis, though, because they've enjoyed what you've done so far.
Well, thank you.
Tim Reid, and we'll see you later.
Join us tomorrow night for funny man John Candy.